Hi. Following the last video tackling bottom of the barrel releases, I'm unhappy to tell you that we've few more to cover. So let's see what stinkers I've picked for today. Virtuoso. What a game! A virtuoso by definition is an individual who possesses outstanding talent and technical ability in a particular art or field, such as fine arts, music, singing, playing an instrument or composition. In this particular case, it's video game design, and it's Motive Time, oddly named development studio that are the virtuosos of it here, only not really and not at all. And their magnum opus should more accurately be called Shitus Maximus, which in Latin stands for a game like no other. But let's start at the beginning and not jump too far ahead. Virtuoso is a third-person perspective shooter taking place in the year 2055 and telling a story of a rock musician playing a virtual reality game, and I shit you not here, called Virtuoso. I'm having a rather painful Inception flashbacks here, guys. Not because it was a bad movie, quite the contrary, but because the quality difference, the gap between it and this Magnus Shitus is like a Grand Canyon, only wider and deeper. Anyway, why is the rocker in a game about the rocker playing a game about the rocker? Well, since clearly there's no indication of it anywhere in the game, there has to be something in the manual. And you know what? He actually has his reasons. They're stupid and illogical and unfounded, but they're definitely there. So he's so popular, so loved and adored by his fans that he just can't take it anymore. And he locks himself in his hotel room and plays this, I don't know what this is, but he does, and it's like an escape for him from his life, a moment of peace and bliss. And as soon as you'll start playing, it will be for you too. Though a piss and a miss. Spelled differently, I must add. But while Virtuoso is not a game that will freeze on you, that's impossible to complete or technically broken, it's just trash, man. It really is. You're this stereotypical tough rocker in leather jacket, sporting large shades and running around with two guns, shooting at anything on your way with no story to back it all up, other than what I just told you. And by anything, I really mean it. Cause while there may be some medieval knights, giant spiders and robots there, so stuff my brain can kinda compute and understand as potential enemy to be put down, you'll also be shooting at crows, flying axes, snowmen, crabs, seagulls and a whole manner of stupid-ass and unfitting enemies. All of them feeling as if they were purchased from an asset shop on a Black Friday discount and forcibly included in the game, solely to raise the number of bodies so that it would look good, mentioned in big shiny glitter covered lettering on a game box cover. Not saying that it's the case here, but it sure feels like it. There are naturally pickups in the game, it's after all a shooter, a terrible one perhaps, but one nonetheless. And the most prominent of them are better weapons. And they are, or can be, better, sure, but you can never really tell by looking at them or pick whichever to use. You're always using the best ones, whatever that may mean, and they all look and sound suspiciously alike. At least ammo's unlimited, so that's one less thing to worry about. The game always picks the best weapon for you, not to put you, a delicate genius, a fragile mind in a position of having to make a choice yourself. I mean, it would hurt, right? You'd feel violated and unwilling to carry on playing. Am I correct? Or even worse, lost between all these identical feeling choices with no distinguishable differences between all the pew-pewers. Well, no, I am not right. The game treats you, and I for that matter too, like an idiot. Well, idiots, there's two of us after all. We're not smart enough to figure out this new and previously unseen gameplay mechanic of having to press numbers to pick weapons, and the game's doing us a huge favor by taking the weight of that difficult choice on itself. Good guys devs made sure of it. Well, truth be told, you do have some choice, keyword some, you can pick one of 3 episodes to play, and they're Mars, The Haunted House and Marine, but if I'm to be honest with you, for me they could have easily all just been called Shit 1, Shit 2 and Shit 5. Why 5? Who cares? I made the choice for you. So don't worry and just carry on carrying on. Anyway, the levels are flat, boring, uninspired, with no stairs, lifts or any particular points of interest, buildings or notable locations, and are just series of boring corridors and rooms that all look the same. Which seems fitting, given that the devs were also not keen on making too many choices, especially whether the game should be crap, shit or a turd. And ultimately, they've decided on all 3, a trifecta of terrible, which they've nailed it, I must add, with this boring, repeatable and awful looking title. In reality, they only had one real choice to make here: to release the game like a fart held for way too long so that it already managed to mutate into a series of mixed and awful smells, or hold it in and never let the world know about it. And they've not made the right call. So, if you only can, avoid Virtuoso. And if you can't, find a way to, and avoid anyway. And avoid it anyway. Zombieville. Now how great of a game can it be with that awesome title? If we were to reverse the scales, I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. But since they're not reversed, I'm sure we're all more than capable to do the math here. Well, I'd had to use the calculator, but it oddly seems fitting, because I'm sure that the devs used one too, to write the code for the game. And yes, I mean one, splitting the screen time at it between all of them. And what was not written on the calculator was written on a sandy beach in scorching sun before being digitized. And waves? Oh, the waves. They naturally jumbled bits and pieces of the code on random, and that's the sole reason for Zombieville being what it is today. Cause honest to God, which I don't really believe in, I see no reason other than that for Psygnosis, renowned developer and veteran of the industry, to ever drop as heavily fragmented brick as this one and not wipe or wash hands. Wipe in this particular case as in erase it from existence moments after having done working on it, and wash hands so deny that there was ever a project like it in the first place. But oh well, it is what it is, and it's really bad. Zombieville is a third-person action adventure taking place in a small town of Dunworth, a town with grim and troubled past of top-secret unknown military projects run in hiding in a local military base, experimental weapons and something else. Most likely terrible video game design ideas and shoddy execution, if you ask me. You play as Matt, a journalist visiting a town in search for an interesting story to write about. As cliché as it may sound, we've heard of similar story in other games before and they usually worked quite fine. Gabriel Knight, anyone? So why did it fail here, you may wonder? Oh boy, how quality really can differ between similar ideas. Keep watching and I'm sure you'll figure it out. Anyway, since Downforth's history raised more questions the more Matt looked into it, it was an ideal place for his research. Or so it seemed. On his way, Matt's car was shot from a nearby military base called Bedlam, so in response, he decided to carry on foot to investigate. Now, that's like 3 red flags raised in one go. I mean, if your car is ever shot at, the last thing you wanna do is leave it to check who was shooting. Especially not by walking willy-nilly straight into the direction the shots came from. And definitely not when you're unarmed. I mean, Matt does have his epic mustache, but other than breaking hearts of girls of early 80s, it hardly counts as a weapon. So, what you do in a situation like that is press pedal to the metal and leave while you still can. What Matt found just a few steps ahead was not what he expected, and it cannot be called anything else than undead. Or actually it can, a little term known as zombie comes to mind. Zombie team and zombie game, resurrected from an unfinished alpha state and released with game-breaking bugs, missing files, needlessly convoluted boring-ass story and lackluster presentation. I mean, imagine Resident Evil or Alone in the Dark, great games, right? They touch on the horror, they touch on occult, there's some adventuring, some puzzling and a lot of fun combat. Challenging, but not unfair. Now, deprive them of everything that made them good, and make sure to break everything that's left so that it would freeze seemingly on random or close itself for no reason, the enemies would respawn, often right behind you, and the errors would pop up all the time, giving you no hint what went wrong. Now, you may not see a lot of it in the video, but the memories of all of it are oh so vivid. Unlike the 2 famous survival horror classics though, the atmosphere of Zombieville is non-existent. Its story oddly mixes horror and humor into a mold that feels cringe at its best and boring at worst. In all cases, something you'd not want to invest your time in. The dialogues and adventuring bits of Zombieville are not great either. First can actually kill you if at any point you answer incorrectly or pick an option that the devs forgot to bake in, and then it will just close. No sorries, no thank yous, it will shut and give you no indication on the reason. And second, so adventuring is sparse and unimaginative. And the actions that you can take, starting with the movement all the way to combat, is disappointing to say the least, mainly because of clunky controls, causing aiming and shooting to feel like a separate minigame of its own. And not a good one at that with odds stacked against you. It's so difficult in fact, that I'd wager a guess it was made so that the least players would see this third to the very end. Simply put, you fight with the oddest camera angles that you'd ever seen, your frustration, disappointment and anger second, and then zombies later. Zombieville is an excellent proof that the pre-rendered graphics with 3D objects overlaid on them do not guarantee a fun game. I mean, if you enjoy getting pissed off, then it's a dream come true. It will make sure to give you a run for its money when it comes to testing your patience and safe scamming skills. If not, then you're looking at arguably the worst horror-themed DOS title ever. Zombieville is just horror. Mainly of unfinished design, generic flat story ideas, botched controls, unsatisfying gameplay, overinflated difficulty and no atmosphere whatsoever. I recommend it same as I would recommend eating a bag of nails. So, not at all. Ride to Hell Retribution is probably the only bad game in today's video. That's bad because of the original developer had to shut down and it was stuck in a development hell for 5 years, being dropped and picked up like a hot potato, constantly falling on the floor and getting more and more bruised until someone eventually picked it up, put it all together into something vaguely resembling a jacket potato, from few odd and not necessarily fitting toppings on it, and sold for $5 with a side of green salad. Now, was the time and effort worth the end product? Not at all, but it was appropriate to mention that this one might have ended up being semi-decent or maybe even average if things didn't go the way that they did. Ride to Hell is a direction the game should really take during development so that it would never spawn into our realm and onto our machines, wasting our precious time on this blue marble. But it didn't, so let me tell you about it. You know, so that you would know why to avoid it. It is set in 1969 in America and you play as Jake Conway, a biker and Vietnam veteran rolled into one. Also chauvinist and a dick, so a whole package. And you live with your brother and uncle and you're all bikers. Tough guys who don't take no for an answer, or yes for that matter either, cause you ask no questions, you proclaim statements, and as soon as you do, they're true. Because you're man and what you say goes. Also mustaches, beards and long hair. Not sure where I'm going with these three in particular, but here we go, I did and I'm ready to carry on. Anyway, at some point in this not too creative story, your brother is killed by a rival gang, so having literally nothing to lose and coconut-sized cojones to boot, you've no other choice but to set off on a testosterone-filled quest for vengeance. And that vengeance or revenge, however you wanna call it, is basically a series of minigames daisy-chained together to form a linear story told by cutscenes, and one that you'll get bored with before you even begin grasping its deeper meaning. And yeah, I'm sure you guessed that already, there is nothing deep there whatsoever, and all I told you about the motivations of Jake is all that there is. And while it would be fine for a late 80s and early 90s title, you know, few lines of text that tell you why you do what you do, in 2013 when Ride to Hell released and we had amazing, long and deeply personal gaming experiences like Red Dead Redemption, this just felt, well, like a series of 8-bit games connected together by loose threads, barely hanging there and making no sense at all. So, you'll spend a lot of time in the driving sections avoiding different obstacles, mainly by power slide or using ramps. Impacts and collisions here either roll you back to the last checkpoint or end with death. Both are fine, cause both take you one step closer to abandoning this game. You may get attacked while driving too, and it will either turn into a series of quick-time melee events or will be based in shootouts, with you either shooting or driving. Both are as bad, so the difference, while may seem to be rather considerable, is really unimportant. You won't have much fun doing so is what I'm saying here. Other than the driving, there's also third-person cover-based shooting and beat-em-up sections too. All of these are serviceable, though way below what we consider industry average by 2013. At least weapons and moves are not terrible, and these can sorta kinda but not really hold your attention for a minute or two. It's worth noting that between these repeatable and forgettable sections, you've a tiny chunk of a city for free roam, and you can sell drugs there, buy weapons, moves and upgrade/customize your bike. And believe it or not, that's it. There's nothing more here, that's the game, and all that you find in Ride to Hell. Each and every minigame of it is good enough for a couple of minutes before the feeling of wanting something else, something more, begins to set in. And when it finally does, when it dawns on you, you'll close this atrocity of a software and play a better game. So, while still have your attention here, hear me out. Why waste time with this one, when you could be playing that better game from the get-go? Some games are good, some are not, but these, well, these were something special. They're the Sharknado of gaming, so titles so terrible that you just can't look away and have to check them out to make sure that something so awful could have spawned into existence in the first place. So, what do you think of today's picks? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit those like and subscribe buttons below, and maybe share it too, it helps more than you know. If you didn't, then don't naturally. It was fun talking to you as usual, and I'll see you, or more accurately, talk to you very soon.